Hannah, I just
Cullen.
want to let you know something. You can't have my heart.
Wow.
Yeah, just getting that on the table. That's really meaningful, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah.
That
You
feels
know, I really wish
climactic.
you would have given me a lackluster British accent. So let's take it from the top.
Okay. You can't have my heart.
That's better than hers.
Ooh, I'm famously in bad with a British accent, so
And so is she.
I was like, wait, she did a British accent.
It's there sometimes.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right, well, welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we talk about fantasy films and the lore that inspired them. I'm Cullen, wearing the same reindeer sweater as last time.
Amazing. And I'm Hannah, and I'm not wearing a reindeer sweater, but I am still in the Evil Queen's throne room. But this is
Uh,
the Evil Queen, the OG, because this throne room
the
slays.
one named Evil Queen in the Descendants franchise.
Yep. Who names their child Evie.
Evie.
So,
Yeah, I'm in Sanctuary. Um, and we have a special guest, a Disney historian, a fellow podcaster, Wyatt, the host of Disney Reel to Reel.
Oh my God. Oh, that really hyped me up. Hi, everyone. Today I'm live streaming from the Dark Forest.
Wow.
Uh,
beautiful.
Coming to you live from twitch.com. Um, be sure to get me up to 500 biddies in time for the next section of the chat. Let's get this going.
Let's get
Yes.
this
Let's
going.
get this hype train going.
Yes.
Snow White will heal you if you donate donate this much money. The 2000 Apple bits.
I'll start a GoFundMe.
Start a GoFundMe for Snow White's ascension to the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh yeah. Your podcast talks about like Disney and Disney history, and I've used you for sources and I've asked you a question about like obscure like when they change lyrics. So your reference in our latest episode, which was on the classic Snow White, because from my understanding, you're a big Snow White fan, from what I've listened to.
Yes, and I'm gathering that because it's taking you this long to get to it, you guys aren't.
Uh, no, I like Snow White.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
look at his mug. I mean,
yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I mean, as listeners will know, I had my running four movies that I would watch. But Snow White was a movie I did see, a classic Disney film I did see. It was Sleeping Beauty that I hadn't seen, that I was like, yeah, I definitely hadn't seen this. But this one I had. And of course, we're continuing Snow White month
Yeah,
today.
yeah. And I doubt, you know what? Let's be not be too hard, but I doubt any of the other movies we're watching are going to top that 1937 Snow
Yeah,
White.
I mean, I'm already two-thirds of the way to fully achieving that opinion.
Yeah.
Have not watched the final film yet because it has not released. But yeah, no, I think it's a pretty confident place to be sitting, Cullen,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the classic, it's very good. It holds up. It's a solid film. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
love the classic three, you know. I mean, I love the new ones too. I've just always been a defender because they've gotten a lot of hate. And that's why I feel a certain way about people coming after Rachel Zegler is because I'm like, I was there in the trenches
Yeah.
and I knew you all were saying the exact same things she said.
yeah,
And I grew up with conservative homeschoolers. So like it wasn't like a
Yeah.
liberal woke thing. Like, you know, it's like
No.
everybody was shitting on Snow White. And so now you're gonna defend her. Now I'm like, maybe you just hate brown women. I mean, that's it. Or women
Like
with
seriously,
opinions.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone like get this defensive about Snow White until that controversy. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the interview clip in question went viral like a year or so after it actually because I was like, I'd seen this before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guy
Um,
stalks her. Weird, weird.
oh yeah. Yeah. I'm like, you know what, dude, you shouldn't be editing a theater kid. You just gotta let that happen. We've watched the Glee Project on our other podcast. We know how easy it is to give a theater kid the villain edit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've listened to Ariana Grande's 95 million. I know what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 I know.
Yeah. Shout out to what was that? I'm forgetting her name. The one who was she played Harmony in Glee eventually, and everyone hated her. She was given the villain
Uh-huh.
edit. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
And I saw her as Janice in Mean Girls on tour.
Yeah, and she had a stint as Elphaba.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name though.
Oh, I'm so
But
she
yeah,
was yeah,
she was
Lindsay
like a
Pierce. Lindsay
Lindsay
Pierce.
Pierce. She was
Hmm.
like 17, 18 on the Glee Project. And I was like, yeah, the show was very successful in making me hate her. This child or this new teenager. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So, but
theater kids.
we're here to talk about a very different energy. We're talking about 2012 Snow White and the Huntsman. Part of a Snow White renaissance that we got in the early
Literally in the year
2010s.
2012.
Yeah, because that's when. Okay, well, I mean, it's our next episode. Spoilers. Mirror, mirror, like Mirror, mirror. Snow White and the Huntsman came out the same year, and then that was around when Once Upon a Time started.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
Jennifer
yeah.
Goodwin, Lana. I always forget her last name. Perella? Perella? I love
Perilla.
Perella. She was the best part of that show. I loved her. I mean, I love Jennifer Goodwin too. And then that was around when Descendants came out a couple years later. And then I think that's also when Ever After High with Raven Queen and Applewhite started.
Wow.
So people were really into the Snow White story, I guess. She had her moment. Um,
Yeah. That was weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about it, like literally it's probably what, like a 4 year span of time where all this Snow White related content was
Yeah.
coming out.
So
It's wild.
Snow White has been girl bossed. I think that is an important thing
Yeah.
Hmm.
to acknowledge. She's been girl bossed before. Now, does this movie do that well? We shall see.
Yeah.
Because I'm not 100% against the girl bossification of Snow White if done well. I think we all need it's like the thing that like when you adapt a movie, like you're not going to do it the same way. You're going to change the storyline and there's certain expectations modern audiences have of our protagonists. But I think this fits very well into like a 2010s trap of action versus character growth.
Yes.
I think that's like when you talk about like giving a character an arc versus just girl bossifying.
Or I mean,
Yeah.
let's simplify it, giving her lines, giving
Yeah.
her stuff to say in scenes.
Opinions, thoughts,
Yeah.
feelings, which cartoon animated Snow White has plenty of those.
Yeah,
She
that's
speaks her
why
mind.
it's so stunning in this film that she'll just be in a scene staring at people. And I'm like,
She
I
will
love
have
it.
woken up from her coma and immediately organize an army.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like she's a playable character, but when you don't have four people with the controllers, right? Like no one's using her. And she's just standing there like vibing in the cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my
Exactly.
NPC right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about this. Okay, this is actually my first time seeing Snow White and the Huntsman.
Wow.
I didn't see it when
Same.
it came out. All right. Had you seen it before, Hannah?
Yeah. I don't
Wow.
think I saw it in theaters. I think this was like I'm gonna get this from the red box and watch it just because
Hmm.
I was like I needed something to watch. Uh yeah. I saw it once. All I remember is that it was like, wow, this is bad. That's all I remember.
Uh, so this is both Wyatt and I's first time seeing it, and
Mhm.
I when I saw this, I was like, wow, everything about Maleficent makes sense. Because there are a
Yes.
lot of choices that movie made that I was like, what? And now I'm like, okay, we have an opening battle scene with like these knights. We have a lot of emphasis on villain backstory. We have dark Scottish Gothic core, kind of. We have medieval grunge. We haven't
Yep.
covered a lot of medieval grunge movies, but this is peak medieval grunge. Everything's
Yeah.
brown, dingy, dirty,
Dead.
dead.
I mean, I guess we'll kind of be doing that if we do a certain Robin Hood film.
Oh yeah, we'll get to medieval grunge. Yeah. And lots of weird, fun CGI creatures. Uh,
Fun?
some
Okay.
the screenplay was by Evan Dougherty, John Lee Hancock, and Hossein Eminiriana. It was again the thing where I paste in the information and forget to read the names before I start recording. It was a school screenwriting assignment by Evan at NYU. They had to write like a dark fairy tale. And as we were saying before we recorded, I could see this slapping in the workshop. Like this would be a fun read in class.
Mm.
Yeah.
And he had trouble getting it bought, especially after the Brothers Grimm movie bombed. Shout out to our first episode.
Yeah.
Uh, but when Alice in Wonderland by Tim Burton did really well, basically starting the live action remake trend that we all deal with today, this movie was greenlit. It was purchased. And I'm kind of proud of him for that. Like you wrote the
Yeah.
script and you made it there. I don't like a lot of the choices, but proud of you. It was
Yeah.
directed by Rupert Sanders, produced by Joe Roth and Sam Mercer. It stars Kristen Stewart as Snow White, Charlize Theron as Queen Ravenna, which is a great name for the evil queen. Chris Hemsworth as Eric the Huntsman, forget that's his name. Uh, Sam Claflin as William. Sam Spruill as Finn, who I'll be referring to this whole movie as liability, because that's all he is. And then, okay, so Ian McShane is Beth, the leader of the dwarves. Bob Hoskins is Muir, the blind elder dwarf, and it's just
She is the healer.
yeah, it's his final role before retirement.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He
Um,
was like, I'm gonna pack it up now.
yeah,
He's
it
like, I
was
can't be seen doing this anymore after this one.
Uh, Ray Winstone is Gort, an ill-tempered dwarf. Nick Frost is another dwarf. We have
Another ill-tempered
yeah,
dwarf.
Toby Jones as Cole, Eddie Marson as Dur, Johnny Harris as Quirt, and Brian Gleason as Gus, the eighth dwarf,
And just
which threw me
wanna
off.
that was Brian Gleason?
Yeah. What also threw
Holy
me
crap.
off, or what also is crazy is because once upon a time, I think had an eighth dwarf who died named Stealthy.
Oh my God, yes.
Love
And I'm
that.
like, you already have so many characters to juggle with seven dwarves. Why are we adding an extra one to kill off?
That's I also want to point out that these actors, I don't think any of them are little people actors.
They
Nope.
were
They
CG, the
all
heads were put on
CG.
CG, yeah.
Yeah.
And the little
Yep, yep.
people of America, the group, not just like, I'm not just, like
Not like the collective, the actual
the
group.
group, I
Yeah.
think, complained and or sued, which is I know there's the conversation that Peter Dinklage had when the Snow White remake was initially announced, and then all the various ways Disney tried to dance around that. And at the end of the day, I'm not a little person, so I can't really speak to what the adequate choices and like little people themselves are not a monolith. And some are like, hey,
Yeah.
we want the jobs, we want to play these people. So we get mad when we don't get these jobs. Or maybe yes, but also doesn't it suck that these are the only jobs we can get?
Right.
So there's a lot of layers, but I'm not the expert. But this movie definitely goes with their magical race, like Tolkien
Mhm.
dwarves. With this movie had a budget of 170 million and a box office return of 396.6 million. So money. And it
Okay.
won 3 Teen Choice Awards.
That changes things. That
Bet
changes things for me. You
yeah,
know how much weight I put on a team. That surfboard.
that surfboard.
That surfboard.
I mean, Charlize got one for best hissy fit.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
Beating out Steve Carell in Crazy Stupid Love Kevin
Wow.
Hart in Think Like a Man, Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum in 21 Jump Street, and Mark Ruffalo in The Avengers.
Okay. Well,
And
okay.
then uh the best summer movie star, Kristen and Stewart and Chris Hemsworth both won best summer movie star for both their respective male and female. And but Chris was it was a double booking for Thor in the Avengers and and Eric in this. Um
Yes.
he beat Robert Downey Jr., Andrew Garfield for Spider-Man, Adam Sandler for That's My Boy, and Will Smith for Men in Black 3. Is he coming into my house? And then
Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth.
it's your name, sir. I just said your name. Not your wife's. The best Kristen beat Scarlett Johansson for The Avengers, Leighton Meester for That's My Boy, Emma Stone for Spider-Man, and Charlize Theron. Now, I went down a Teen Choice Awards rabbit hole, and I'm like, I think I could do a podcast on just the Teen
I
Choice
think we
Awards.
should, honestly.
This year, and this will also be relevant for our next episode, so I don't feel as bad. It was hosted by Kevin McHale, already from Glee, and Demi Lovato. She's really good.
She was also in Glee.
Also in Glee, yeah. Not
For 4
yet,
episodes.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Pauly D was the DJ host. No Doubt performed. Flo Rida performed Whistle, and
Oh,
Wild
no.
Ones was Stacey Rain.
That was a Dan Schneider pick right there.
Dan Schneider pick.
Oh my God, yeah, right.
Justin
Jesus.
Bieber performed Boyfriend and As Long as You Love Me with Big Sean. And my girl Carly Rae Jepsen performed Call Me Maybe. Uh yeah. So
That was a different time.
that,
But
Yeah.
it is really interesting to say that like 2012, so Kristen Stewart was already pretty popular with Twilight,
yeah.
but this was literally like Chris Hemsworth's second big role because Thor had
Yeah.
like just come out, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so like, yeah, that's crazy to think that like he hasn't been famous for that long. Like it's been
know.
like 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
So it's like it's crazy to think about. But yeah,
Yeah.
Thor.
Thor.
And then this Scottish accent nightmare.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, a
Oh,
queen
wow.
sat by her window frame.
So much better. Like,
Beautiful.
Nice. Oh, well, I aims to please.
So to talk about our lore, so last week we talked about the Brothers Grimm story when we talked about the Disney adaptation and how it's ATU, Arden Thompson Uther type Tales of Magic 709, Snow White or the Beautiful Girl. And I got Maria Tatar's book from the library, Fairest of Them All, with a bunch of Snow White retellings. Or not retellings, they're like old traditional stories. And I found one where she ends up with a huntsman. And I was like,
love it.
because yeah, I guess because I wasn't gonna I was just gonna talk about apples and stuff in this one, but I was like, we got a shortish one that I can retell. It's a French story told by a 58-year-old man named Pierre in 1800, collected by Paul Sebelot. Uh, and it opens with a queen with a daughter, and the queen could pass for an older sister. Like that's what they said. So it's like
Sounds like
classic.
my mom to every store clerk who's like, "Oh my God, you guys look just like the same." She's like, "Yeah, she's my older sister." And I'm like, "Yep, that's me."
Okay, Heidi. Uh, and the daughter was almost old enough to be married, and soldiers are passing by, and they're like, "That queen is hot, but the princess is hotter." And the queen is like, "What the fuck? I'm telling my servants to go kill her." So they take her out in
Her
the woods.
own daughter?
Yeah, they take her
Okay.
out into the woods because the majority of Snow White tales, it is the mother and daughter, not the stepmother, unless apparently it's Chinese, because that was like they did not fuck with that. It would be like a different person. Um, that's me summarizing a lot that I read in this book. You should read this book because there's some interesting stuff it gets in a lot more detail.
Well, and also, like, it's literally just an offhand comment that she overhears that it's like,
Yeah.
Kill her now.
Yeah, I need these
Yeah.
broke ass soldiers to think I'm hot. It's like you're the queen.
And she's 7.
Yeah.
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 There you go.
So they take her out into the woods and they're like, you know what? She's really pretty and she's never mean and never has a harsh word for anyone. Like, how could we kill her? Let's just leave her in the woods. And unlike Brothers Grimm or the Huntsmans, like an animal will kill her anyway. They're like, oh, she'll just get lost and she won't make it back to the castle. She'll go live somewhere else. Um, but she's lost and afraid, and she finds another castle, and she's like, "Let me beg for food." No one's there at the time, but three brothers lived there, and they would rotate. Two would hunt, and one would keep house. So the brother's cooking. He goes down to get the cellar to get wine, and she sneaks in. She tries to take some chicken from like the roast chicken, but she ends up grabbing the whole thing. And the dogs bark at her, and she gets scared, and she runs off to hide and eats the whole chicken. And then then she's feeding the bones to the dogs. So when the brothers come home, and they're like, "Bro, why didn't you make us any food?" He's like, "I made a chicken. Where is it?" They see the dogs like being fed the bones, and she's like, "Don't kill me for stealing. I haven't eaten in 4 days." And they're like, "You know what? It's okay." And they say like, "We want you to be safe. Like, we want you to have a home." And they're like, she's kind of charming, but they say they want her to be safe before they say she's charming, which is unusual in a Snow White folktale. And they're like, we would fight over who would get to marry her, so why don't she just be like our sister, and she can keep the house, and we all three go hunt. And so they're all pretty happy until an old beggar woman comes by begging for alms, and she recognizes this girl as the princess. And then she runs back to tell the queen, and the queen is like, "Oh, well, here are these stockings. Give them to her, but don't tell them they're from me, and then I'll take care of your future. Like, you won't be broke anymore." So the beggar woman gives her the stockings. They go up into her room. She puts the stockings on, and she passes out, and the beggar woman leaves. And the brothers return to find her passed out, and they're like, "Oh, it's a spell." But she's too beautiful to bury, so let's put her in a glass coffin. And when they're called to war, they put the coffin in a tree. And one day a huntsman is like sees something shining in a tree, and it keeps like getting in his eyes as he's trying to hunt. And he's like, "Let me see what that is." He goes up, and he's like, "Oh, it's like a sleeping woman in a coffin. I'm gonna take this home to where I live with my three sisters."
Why
And
are people just seeing a coffin? They're like, I'm gonna take this. This needs
it's
to stop being a trend.
wouldn't that max out your inventory?
Yeah, really.
They're not playing with encumbrance rules in this module. Yeah.
I mean,
And
if Chris Evans was in a coffin, I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
yeah,
glass coffin. It's like, you know
but
what? I am gonna take this.
I'm taking this home to my three sisters.
No, it's just for me.
Just for me.
Y'all can find your own. Anyway.
And the three sisters loved this. They were super happy. And the youngest, who was silly goofy, she loved to laugh and giggle, was like, "She'd be even prettier if she wore my clothes." And the sisters said, and this is a direct quote, "What are you thinking? How did you come up with that? Just leave her alone." They're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, okay, weirdo." But one day they give her permission to keep the glass coffin in her bedroom. And she's like, "Dress up time." And so she dresses her in her dress. And he's like, "I have better stockings." And she takes off the stockings. And then she wakes up like, "Oh." And the sister runs down on all fours because she's like, "Ah, she's awake." Um, and the girl is like, "Oh, the sleeping girl, the Snow White, I guess was, but that's not her name in this." But she's like, "Don't be afraid, I'm alive. I've just been really asleep a long time." So she's like, "I'm not undead. I've just been asleep." And they're happy. The sisters are all happy, and the hunter fell in love with her because she's pretty and asked her to marry him. And she's like, "Yeah, he's a handsome young fellow." And so they get married, and that's her story.
I remember it said that she consented to marriage
Yes, she consented to marriage.
Huh.
with this stranger.
Yeah, with this, but she's like, "You know what? He's handsome. She got a lot. This is like these sisters love me. So she
Fine,
does
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
go get it.
go get it.
That's so wild.
Yeah. So like the three brothers don't come back. Like going back and becoming queen, unimportant to this character.
Mm.
She's
Well,
like,
I mean, they went to war.
yeah,
We don't even know if they came back in
yeah.
general.
But she has like a nice life with this family. And you're like, you know what? Good for her.
Good for
Nice.
her.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I wanted to touch very briefly on the concept of an evil queen because people hate women in charge, nothing new. And I was like, how much am I going to get into this? But really, I just wanted to touch on Elizabeth Bathory, who wasn't a queen, but people said she bathed in blood to keep herself young. And so that's obviously fueling the Queen Ravenna characters, like whole vibe, her whole deal. Oh my gosh, Queen Charlize is here. She's sucking the life out of me. Uh, so Elizabeth Bathory was a Hungarian countess whose family controlled Transylvania.
Mm.
Uh, and the claim that she bathed in blood to stay young way after her death. Um, but many claimed that she and her husband killed over 600 girls and tortured them, maybe for sexual gratification, maybe just cruelty. There were over 300 witnesses who testified to this. Um, but it only really came to light when it was wealthy girls because it used to be peasant and servant girls. And then she ran like a boarding house for young women. But some people are like, this is a political attack against a wealthy woman from a wealthy family. The Habsburgs were coming into power and wanted more power. The Hungarian Palatine had debt to her family that he wanted washed away. She was a Calvinist against Catholic powers, and the Reformation was happening. The Ottomans were encroaching. But the investigation was started by a Lutheran pastor. So people are like, maybe it wasn't a religious thing, but those are also two different flavors of Protestant. So honestly, the idea of like a rich lady being evil and killing a bunch of people, I could believe. The possibility of a woman just being attacked because they wanted her money, I could also believe. So I see why historians are split. But she died under house arrest. It's not like she was burned at the stake. Um,
And on her tombstone it read, "What a body count."
yeah, that's a merch right there.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. Here lies Elizabeth Bathory. What a body count.
What a body count.
you get that for free.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you. Thank you. Thank you.
you.
We'll have an asterisk and then we'll cite you at the bottom. Yeah, of the t-shirt.
Cite your sources, MLA.
MLA style. So apples. That could be a whole thing. But apples, they appear a lot in European folklore and also Genesis, right?
Famously.
Famously, I mean, though in the Bible itself, I think it's just a
It's
fruit. They
a
don't
fruit.
specify apple. We were just like, it's definitely an apple. And that is partially because of some of these other things I'm about to reference.
Mm.
But I guess for the uninitiated, those who aren't baptized twice, take a shot. So yeah. Uh, the story is right. There was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God's like, don't eat out of it, Adam and Eve, the first humans who existed in this garden of paradise. I'm like, I didn't even think of how I would retell this story. I was just like, yeah, everyone knows it. But I'm like, yeah. So they're in the garden. The first two humans don't eat the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's your one rule. And then a snake is like, if you eat it, you'll be like God. And she's like, okay. And she gets Adam to eat it, and they both eat it. I think that's important to note. And then they realize they're naked and they have self-awareness and realize that they're nude and that God's like, you're gonna die someday. And women will have periods in childbirth.
God damn it.
Yeah. So that's how the story goes. And then the snake is forced to crawl on its belly, and the women and the snake are gonna have hate each other, and their children will hate each other. Enmity between the snake and the woman. And I do like to point out that while it is common logical adaptational choice that the snake is the devil, it doesn't really specify. It's just a talking snake. Um, and we talk about that, I think, in our Diablo episode.
Yes.
We talk about the video game series Diablo. But so an apple is common. So people say Adam ate the apple, Eve ate the apple, Adam's apple. Yes, yes, yes. Amelia Perez.
Emilia!
So you didn't watch the Oscars, did you, Hannah? Right? So
No,
when they won for best song, which those best song choices, they didn't even perform them at the Oscars because the best
because
song
they're
choices were
terrible.
terrible. When it won, she started singing and everyone was like, Ugh.
Oh my.
And no one mentioned anything about trans people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's what people commonly think of when they think of an apple, right? The knowledge of good and evil, self-awareness, free will, I'm a free will stan. Um, the golden apples of the Hesperides, right? So there's also in a lot of stories the tree of life, whether that's also in Genesis, that's in a lot of like Middle Eastern, Near Eastern stories. And then in Greek mythology, the Mother Earth Gaia gives Hera a wedding present, which is the golden apples of the Hesperides. And there's special nymphs that watch it. One of Hercules' labors was getting the golden apples. Uh, the goddess Eris, and we'll talk about this when someday we get to Troy. The goddess Eris of Strife stole a golden apple and wrote "To the fairest" on it and threw it at the feet of Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera. Aphrodite always comes back. Surprise, bitch, bet you saw the last of me. And they make a shepherd decide who's the most beautiful of them all. And that's also a connection, right, between beauty and apples. We talked about this story way back in episode 2, The Book of Life. No, was that episode 2 recording, episode 3 of the podcast? The
Yes.
story where the guy wanted to get Atalanta in a race, and Aphrodite, again back, gives him golden apples to throw to distract her, so he can win the top tier female hero of Greek mythology as his bride because he's distracted by shiny apples. Uh, and speaking of Chris Hemsworth and Thor,
Hmm.
the goddess Idun was had golden apples in Norse mythology that she fed to the gods to keep them young. Their youth was dependent, eternal youth was dependent on these golden apples, and that was this goddess's main job. She kept the apples. And then Loki got captured once, and so he tricked and betrayed her. He was like, "Let's go in the woods. I have some new cool apples for you to look at." And then he hands her over to the Jotun or the giants to be forcibly married. And then when the gods start aging, they're like, "Where the fuck is Idun?" And they're like, "Well, we last saw her with Loki." And then it's like, "What have you been up to now, Tom Hiddleston?" And he has to
What
go.
hasn't he been up to?
What hasn't, And so the goddess Freya, goddess of love, has like a shape-shifting falcon cloak, and so she gives that to Loki, and he goes to Idun, turns her into a nut, scoops her up, flies away, and then they shoot arrows at the giant, who also turns into an eagle to chase them. Um, but this is a fun little detail. He had a daughter who was like, "You kill my dad." And they're like, "Okay, well, you can pick one of the gods to be your husband. But you have to choose it by their feet." So Feet Picks was
That was
born that
another
day.
Dan Schneider choice.
That was a Dan Schneider choice. So all the gods go behind a curtain and they take off their shoes, and she's trying to get Balder, the god of like light, because he's like the beautiful one. But she ends up with Njord, god of the sea, and he's the father of Freyr and Freya, the fertility gods. So he's like an older god, and their marriage is famously unhappy because she wants to be in the mountains and loves the wolves, and he wants to be on the sea, and she hates the sound of seagulls. So eventually they get amicably divorced. But and she just gets to be a goddess now, so it kind of worked out for her. But
She got that in the divorce.
yeah,
Goddesshood.
but she had to choose by their feet. And so apples appear in Norse mythology as associated with like fertility, youth, and like the Vanir or fertility gods. And in Celtic mythology, apples were often associated with magic and the Fae, like the sea god Man Maclear had a silver branch with golden apples. There are lots of stories with like golden apples as an element of the Fae world. There's also Avalon, where King Arthur goes after his death, means Island of the Apples. So,
Mm.
yeah, so it's very interesting because in Genesis you have apples as death, but you have also all these stories of apples associated with youth and beauty and life. Um, So that's apples for you.
How about
How
them
you like?
apples?
How about them
I was gonna
apples?
say, how you like them apples?
Yeah,
Nice.
drink to
Oh,
that.
lovely. Oh,
Amazing.
man.
Yeah, so let's talk about this movie. We've been dancing around it. I've been giving you cultural context. But at the end of the day, does any of that matter to this movie? Probably not. It matters to me. I want
Yeah.
people to know.
It's important to me.
Yeah.
Leave Brittany alone. Anyway.
Oh.
All right.
This movie is pretty directly based on the Brothers Grimm. It's pretty directly. That might be. It's
Mm.
based on. I think based on, not
Inspired.
Inspired.
by.
Yeah.
Based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire.
Sapphire.
Yeah. We start with a queen who's wishing for a daughter. She gets 3 drops of blood on the snow. And so I think it's interesting how, like, in the Brothers Grimm, it's white as snow, lips red as blood, hair black as ebony. And then Disney was skin white as snow, lips red as the rose, black as night, right?
Ebony.
Ebony. They kept ebony. And then this is black as a raven's wing, red as the rose, white as snow.
Yeah,
Or
it's specifically well,
that specific
also,
rose is blooming in the winter.
yes, strong,
Yeah.
not red. As strong as
Strong
that
as the
rose
rose. And
that is blooming in the winter.
and I think Mirror Mirror was black as night, not Raven's wing. And then red as
I've already forgotten.
I was just stuck on those 3 drops of blood hitting the ground, and I laughed. Not gonna lie, I laughed. Like, oh my gosh, they really did that 3 times.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of with the movie for most of it. I wasn't like, wow, this sucks. There were parts of it that took me out, and I was like, okay. And then as I finished it, I was like, I think I liked it. Then I was like, wait, I don't think I did.
No, no.
Parts of it are very competent.
My thing is, it is a visually stunning movie.
Yes.
And I think its tone is very cohesive.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there is no heart behind those aesthetics.
Well,
Yep.
you can't have her heart, so
You can't
Not
have
even
my
the
heart!
not even the audience
audience.
can have her heart.
yeah.
God damn. That milk bath. Anyway.
That milk bath. Yeah. So Snow White is a princess in a beautiful kingdom. She is beautiful on the inside, and she saves birds with her bestie William. Birds appear at the beginning of all these movies because birds appear in Disney's Snow White. Snow White is here.
I'm here! How do you do? That's what I'm here for, all the voices.
Yeah. Voice cast.
Yeah.
We'll just list in the credits all the different voices. Got it.
Wyatt, Chris
Snow
Hemsworth,
White.
Wyatt, Snow White.
Wyatt,
Yes.
Charlize, Queen Charlize. Yeah. And the queen eventually dies of a rough winter, and the king is sad. But there are invaders. There's like a weird shadow army with a strange prisoner who does not look dirty or imprisoned.
No, the only thing that's imprisoned about her is that she's cowering, and I think she may
She's
have
tied
just like
up.
shackled. Oh yeah, she's tied up, but it's probably because she's like, oh shit, I gotta tie myself up. And so
Yeah.
no one thought to like look into this. He's just like, wow, it's Charlize Theron, you know?
Wow, the catch of the day. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they get married the very same day.
Oh
Or
my
the
God.
next day, something
Yeah,
like
so
that. Yeah.
I wonder if that's how there's no one who can be like, whoa, 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 because it happened so fast.
Probably.
Wow, that's
It's like,
feels
he's like, my lady.
too familiar.
I must ride you in the morning.
Yes,
Yeah.
basically. Giselle, we married in the morning. So and baby Snow White is like, wow, you're really pretty. And the Charlie's like, so you agree? You think you're really pretty? I don't remember. I don't even remember. I remember she's just like, we're kind of alike. We're both
You can
hot
already
bitches.
see
Yeah.
the beef stewing in
Yeah.
Charlize's eyes. She's like, I hate this 8-year-old. And I
Yeah.
don't know why yet, but I do.
If we've learned anything from this podcast, nothing is more embarrassing / more likely to bring about your downfall than having beef with a child.
Yes.
Absolutely. It gets you every time.
Yeah.
Truly. Pretty gruesomely too.
Mm-hmm.
And so she is mad, and she's like, there's Snow White is like carrying her train at the wedding, and she like looks behind her, and for a second I thought like Snow White was like following her to like because she was a dumb kid or was like trying to upstage her, and then I was like, no, she has a purpose in the ceremony.
Yeah.
Everything she does is a diva moment.
Diva, yeah. And if the thing is, I gotta say, if your sense of looks, I like you are embarrassed because there's a child, you think a kid is hotter than you. I don't, you're not hot. I'm just gonna say it. I think
There's
you're pretty
something wrong
low on,
with you.
yeah, like you are mentally disturbed and
It's, yeah. I saw you drinking out of that apple.
she's trying to
my
step on my
God.
keyboard. I'm like, girl, no.
She's like, I have to get a message out there.
This ain't no cat on the keys bullshit.
She is a princess. I'm so gendered with her. I was like, you're so beautiful. You're such a princess. Yeah.
You're as lovely as your
Yeah.
name.
Yes, she is. She is. So yeah, the queen is married to him, and that night, she is like,
They're doing quote unquote foreplay, but he's still just like he's into it, and she's like whispering like, I'm gonna fucking murder you
Yeah.
in his ear. Like that's the essence.
advantage of girls like me.
Yeah. And I was like, and he's still getting hard,
He's
still
like-
kissing her, he's still into it. I was like, okay.
okay.
You know what? Maybe he does deserve to
To
die.
Yes, I do take advantage of women.
I'm like,
Yeah,
she
like,
starts
that's-
reading Gloria Steinem to him.
Oh my
while
God.
they're- while
Yeah.
they're having sex. Oh, 'cause-
Yeah, like it's comical, but I'm also like, you know what? If this guy is still able to get his rocks off, you know what? Maybe he
Oh,
does
it turns
deserve
me
to
on the
die.
way you talk about the American public.
It's funny because what is a smart choice is that it is a great motivation for a character like the evil queen, and it is like there's a logic to it, even if you're like, well, okay, well, you're oppressing a lot of women in this as well, but like you get how she could get to that point because it's true that men abuse and throw away women.
Yeah.
Shout out to the musical Six, but like the
all you wanna do, baby.
Catherine Howard, new credit. So,
Yes!
but like, she's the only character with a cohesive worldview, and there's no contrary worldview, which I think is very interesting. So she is. For a second, I'm like, is she like sucking the life out of him via his dick? It's like, what's happening?
Listen,
I mean, why not?
if that pussy pops.
I mean, that's a vine to represent Snow White. Though, why are you hating? Because my pussy pops severely.
No,
and yours don't?
no. It's because I'm a Nicki fan. That's why the pussy looked like Pink Friday.
Amazing.
So she murders this king. Eventually, she stabs him, and then
Okay, she stabs him, and she's like, I'm not gonna try to get rid of this body.
No.
It's fine. I'm just gonna go ahead, bring my army in, and we're gonna rule. And
just
I'm like,
soak the
wow.
sheets in blood.
yeah.
She's
Soak
just
'em.
doing it.
So she goes to open the gate for her brother Liability, and their army, they instantly are ransacking people. Child Snow White is like, oh my God, you stabbed my dad. And Charlize is like, what? And then
I did it.
Yeah, no deal. They chase her, and then she almost escapes with like William and Duke Hammond, but then she gets pulled off the horse in the chaos and gets stuck, and it is really heartbreaking. They're like, she's gone. And just leading us to our biggest plot hole
But
question.
It is also so funny. I think Lyle and I laughed about this for 5 minutes. Where like the gate closes and she's just there, and the dad's like, "Well, she's gone," and then they ride away, and I was like, that was a second ago. You
Well,
can
because
try
didn't
something.
the inbred mother like snatch her up?
Yeah.
After then,
It was just
he snatches her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, she's small enough to kind of crawl through those.
Yeah, Lau was like, she could get through that space. I was like, yeah, she could, but
It's like Rizzo in Muppet Christmas Carol. You can fit through those bars.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Oh my God.
So, and this, whenever you start adding line of succession as a major Snow White plot point, we get the question of why is Snow White alive? Yeah. I know Richard III. I know the killing the boys in the tower thing. Like, you don't leave the other heir alive if it's a hostile takeover.
No, but she also was wanting to use her beauty life force as like a vessel at some point.
At some point, I guess. But she doesn't find out she needs Snow White specifically until later.
Yeah, until she's like 20.
That is a good point. That like, why would she keep her alive?
Yeah.
She should find out later and be like, you were actually needed Snow White. She'd be like, fuck.
Yeah. So in a way, it would almost make sense for her to know that about Snow White and then target this kingdom specifically for Snow White.
Yes.
Yeah, she's just kind of...
that's actually like the really neat thing I found about this adaptation was just like they really lean into like the queen is basically running a death cult within her kingdom, and I'm just like, so one of these days Snow White will be next. The Killer Queen's after you, bitch.
Yeah, like there's no rhyme or reason why she picks certain kingdoms. It's just like she's just on a tour. This is her next stop.
The Eras tour.
Yes, this is her 37th era. Whatever.
Madonna's 37th farewell tour.
Milk bath era.
Milk bath era. Yeah. Because the kingdom falls into sorrow and darkness. She's taking big milk baths. And then
gooey milk baths.
She's
That's
like
a high milk fat content.
We used to be poor on the street, and now look at us, and we're better to the poor people because we shoot water out of the gutters for them.
Wasn't that such a Mad Max moment?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was just like, look at these feeble bootlickers. We are so much more privileged than them. Now back to the chamber with all the mothers with the little suction devices around their tits.
Exactly. Yeah, Furiosa would not be happy with this evil queen.
Again, this evil queen is so Congress coded. She's so Mitch McConnell. She's so JD Vance. Like, I see it. See it. She's that's Queen JD Vance right here. And because she's like, I'm better, but I do.
Also, is this brother-sister dynamic not giving Lannister, not giving incest? Like, ew.
But his hair's so bad, and she's so hot. So how could she?
Listen.
Well, clearly,
power.
She took all the beauty from his dick.
She sucked.
I guess. Yeah.
That pussy pops.
That terrible haircut was like forming on his face. He's like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, you go, Nikki fan. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's running this evil kingdom, and Snow White is alone in a tower, getting some visits from her bird friends, saying the Our Father in its entirety, with dolls. There were these, like, she makes these little dolls, and I was like, oh, is this gonna come up? Nope.
Nope.
She just makes these dolls, and I'm like,
incinerate them.
I thought she was making a voodoo doll of the Wicked Queen, and then it's like, oh, she's praying the Our Father.
She pulls the little nail.
It's just her hobby.
Yeah.
She pulls the nail out from the side of the tower and she sticks it inside the voodoo doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the birds are like, look, there's a nail. This is your way out.
My salvation.
Salvation. She's doing the Catholic cut of the Our Father. I'm gonna add. So we know which denomination the Snow White is. Snow White herself was non-denominational in my Disney fan fiction. She went to the non-denominational church with Anna and Elsa. And the three blonde girls from Beauty and the Beast. But quite the congregation.
What's wrong with her? He's crazy. is he? He's gorgeous.
New voice credit.
I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. This is
Girl, let's go.
There's gonna be an IMDb page full. So the this girl named Greta's put up there because I guess because she's pretty, and the evil queen is talking her golden disc mirror thing that she puts in instantly when she took control. But it's just like, you're the fairest in the land, suck
Yeah,
blood.
where were they hiding that? Like when
I
how
thought
did it-
Liability brought it in. Like his men brought it in.
Oh, because I was
Yeah.
like, where did that come from if they just like found her in this basically this trap of, you
Yeah.
know, being captured. So
Like,
yeah, that makes sense. Liability brought
her
it.
people came in with the like demo crew trading spaces were redoing
Right,
the
right, right.
castle.
Let's move that bus.
Move that bus.
Also, can we talk about the material in the mirror? Is this like a liquid gold situation? Or
Right.
like...
What is this? It's
Yeah,
it's cool,
it's cool.
but I don't know what purpose it serves.
It's Velveeta cheese? I don't-
Velveeta.
Oh, shiny
Yeah.
Velveeta.
Yeah.
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 You know, especially in the era of remake we live in, I am very grateful for the choice to like reimagine some of the aesthetics and visuals of the story.
Yeah.
Even if they don't always make hundo piece sense to me, but
Right.
I appreciate.
They tried something, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She learns.
because it's not really a mirror. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a
even in the
reflection.
gong form, it's not really
No.
a mirror. Although you could argue how much of a mirror is it in Mirror Mirror, but anyway, different movie, different episode.
Yeah. But she's like, she learns that only by fairest blood can the spell be undone. And so she needs Snow White's heart
What
to absorb
spell?
the power. You know, the spell with the blood drops that her mom does when the bad guys are coming to their little huts.
Okay, but what spell was that?
The
What did
spell
it
to give
do?
her magic. I'm not saying it makes
Sustenance?
sense. I'm just saying that's what I got, is that she
Yeah,
got
like-
magic because they did a spell on her.
Who?
The mom, the queen's mom.
Okay.
Yes.
Charlize Theron's mom
Yes.
did a spell
That gave Charlize magic.
and she doesn't want magic anymore?
No, if fairest blood, Snow White is the only one who can undo her magic. Like the only one who can defeat her is Snow White.
Her got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Her kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snow White is the Moses
Three
to
Doors
her
Down.
Pharaoh.
Got
Yeah. Her Chris, Three Doors Down. Yeah. Which I think is a smart.
Because I didn't understand that for the longest time. I was like, there's just so much going on. I
Yeah.
cannot
Well,
grasp
plus,
it.
it's just kind of rude that they're making it out like every other woman's blood is like mid.
Mid blood.
True.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I do. It's those
I mean, it depends on the blood type. I am very desirable as an O negative.
Come get me, Charlize!
Yeah. So
God.
I got that all-purpose blood, basically.
The idea that like blood is, or that like only Snow White can undo her power, I think and it's be connected to being the fairest, is like a smart adaptational change, in my opinion, compared to like, say, Once Upon a Time, where it's like she hates her because as an 8-year-old she like spilled the beans about something, and you're
Yeah.
like, this isn't.
You killed my boyfriend!
It's like, well, no, your mom did, and just
Your mom killed my boyfriend!
yeah, it's like this makes more sense. Like I see, because I guess I've seen people try and modernize the Who's the Fairest in a dumber way, and I'm like, okay, this.
I think the idea of like defining fairest, is it just physical beauty? Is it internal beauty? Is it strength? I just like the fairest, the blood of the fairest is like, what does that
Well,
mean?
and especially because they have that whole dichotomy of like, Snow White goes out into the woods, spoilers, and she's like afraid of everything, and Chris is telling her to nut up and be like, you need to learn how to wield a sword and raise an army and all this stuff. And it's like, there's that dichotomy that doesn't really get fleshed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The queen sucks Greta's life, by the way. Now she's old.
Oh yeah, that
She's
bitch.
old.
It's very Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
But she's like, okay, I need to kill Snow White. She sends Liability to go get her. Turns out from that haircut we knew he's a fucking creep.
Yeah.
Uh, he watches her sleep sometimes, or like comes up to watch
Uh-huh.
her, which plays into the
Yeah.
very sexual aspect of like Snow White as a sexual threat to the queen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and he kind of proves his sister right because he immediately starts sexually harassing Snow White as she like lies on the cot, and she's like,
But she
yeah,
has her little weapon.
he has a little weapon, and so she stabs him in the face with a nail,
Nice.
as he deserves.
Yeah.
Uh, and she's like trying to escape, and Greta is like, leave me. She's like, Greta, and Greta's like, I'm old. Like, just just leave me. But I like this escape sequence. I think it's fun. Like the birds are giving her hints. She's running around. She has to climb through the sewer. She has to jump off a cliff. And I'm like, Kristen, every time I'm watching you in a movie, you're jumping off a cliff into
Yeah.
waters.
It's
Like,
getting
There's not gonna
concerning.
be there's not gonna be a werewolf to save you in this one.
yeah.
Hang on tight, Spider Monkey.
So I'm like, that girl's
Edward?
brains are getting dashed.
But can
Yeah.
somebody explain why this had to have been a directorial choice? Because in some scenes she is like both sleeves over the shoulder. Then when she meets that hot white horse, she's got off the shoulder.
She's very like Renaissance painting, like I'm
Yes.
alabaster
Yeah.
skin.
And then in the next scene, they're back up again.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening here?
This
Yeah.
is for the male gaze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because eventually I'd be like, well, I'm grateful. It doesn't make sense, but I'm grateful her outfit is put back on correctly because she's running around in the woods. She can't have her shoulders out like that. But
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
um,
Especially all
yeah,
those cockroaches.
cockroach. Yeah. I forgot there's like vigilantes or like rebels that the queen catches, and she's like, your son is hot, and he would have broken my heart. So I'm gonna kill him, and he tries to stab me, but I'm immortal. So go home to the Duke and tell him I kill hotties and I'm immortal. And he sees Kristen Stewart escape, and he gets the princess is alive. And I'm like, how do you know that's Snow White? Because yes, she has skin white of snow, but this is like an almost entirely, if not entirely, all Caucasian cast. So like,
Yeah.
what about her is like that Snow White?
Yeah, because like that person saw her last as an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
That was 10 to 12 years ago.
Yeah.
You can change a lot in that time.
And she's been in a tower, so I'm like, she should also be really mentally fucked.
Yeah.
And why are they providing her with fresh clothes?
None of it makes sense.
They don't give a shit about her.
Yeah. It's I'm so confused by a lot of the choices some of these adaptations make.
Because the story said they had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So she finds this white horse on the beach, and she's riding off. And it's like, does this make sense? No. Is it kind of cool? Yeah.
Yeah.
She she
Yeah.
runs through the village, and she's like, the villagers are fucked. And then she keeps galloping off, but then the swamp from Neverending Story is
Oh my
swallowing
God.
our
Yep.
text.
Yep.
She's just like, "Ooh, well, the liability's gonna come kill me, so sorry, horse."
That horse was
Bye,
a
bitch.
liability.
Bye, bitch.
Yeah.
Bye, bitch.
Um,
Oh,
and if you land on the dirt the wrong way, if you roll a low enough wisdom saving throw, they will release smoke, and you'll hallucinate scary forest.
Yep. So
Way
she has a
to.
trip.
They ripped it off from 37. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, okay, this is just to work in the scary forest part. You could just actually make the forest scary. You had to make her be on drugs, basically.
Rupert.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, what are you doing?
The queen is like, well, if I don't have power in the dark forest, we need someone who can find it. And liability is like, I know someone. This is 2012. Time for an annoyingly drunk, gruff male lead with a dead wife.
All right.
And a bad, terrible, offensive to the entire nation of Scotland Scottish accent.
Well, I'm sorry, my fair princess.
He's
And so much better.
yeah. I would say Chris is here, but obviously with that accent, he's not.
Yeah.
He's being dunked in. He's being.
He's
It's
fighting
like
the whole town.
yeah, because they're like
for no reason.
You're drunk, you're disorderly, and they're like, you gotta find her. They take her to him to the evil queen, and she's sitting there surrounded by ravens. Cool visual. And it's like, I need someone in the dark forest. He's like, well, she's dead. He's like, no, I need her heart. And he's like, why? And she's like, you have a dead wife. I will necromancy your wife back to life.
You're into that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He's like, all right, I have never read a story in my life.
I'll make it work.
That could
Whatever happens, I'll make it work.
Yeah, it's like this will definitely be fine. I famously
Yeah.
know it's easy to bring back the dead and there's never any side effects.
Yeah.
So I just think this is when the movie really starts to go south for me because when Snow White is escaping, I
Which
was
is 30 minutes in.
30 minutes in. So
Yeah.
like I was kind of into it. I was kind of like, this is exciting. Like she's finding all these new things, like all the animals helping her. It's like a cool twist on the like animated Snow White.
But
And like
then we introduce the actual protagonist.
yes, and he's annoying.
Yeah.
Because he isn't cool, he isn't
No.
original, and his arc is boring, and he's just gonna have a bad attitude for the rest of the movie that I have to deal with as the audience.
And he doesn't have any care for anyone else except for himself. Like his goal is just about himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the world or the kingdom really.
Which is a classic 2010s male protagonist, and that's annoying. And it's
I'm
also
a man in the 2010s YA adaptation. Everyone go to hell.
Yeah, it's also the most annoying character in your D&D party because it's like a pain to get them to focus on whatever the mission is.
Yeah.
So it's like, and he becomes the main character, and I was like, okay, this Snow White has something going on, and I can't wait to find out what it is. Plot twist, I won't. Like
Because she doesn't ever talk again.
yeah, like the movie is not interested in that. And that's why it's like you can girl bossify her, but if you're not gonna give her an arc, and we've talked about how like the classic like Snow White and Cinderella specifically, but in general, almost all the Disney princesses up until the like 2009, there are or maybe Mulan more, their arc is that they were right and everyone else was wrong, kind of like Snow White is like kind and caring and doesn't care about beauty. She's just trying to find joy in life. And like she makes a happy life for herself. And the woman who's like selfish and vain ruins her own life, you know, like
Yeah.
so that's kind of the triumph arc. And it's not a traditional character arc in the way a lot of audiences expect because Joseph Campbell made it up. But like it works obviously, right? But this is like she goes through like physical transformations, and I think an internal one happened at some point, but I don't really know.
That's when
the
she
time-
was sleeping.
That and also like it didn't occur at the same time that he cut her skirt and
Yeah.
showed off the boots.
The
Yep.
boots, yeah.
Yeah,
That she
that's
got,
how you know you're a girl boss.
and like she had these boots in the tower.
Who's giving her this shit?
Yeah, who's giving her boots? So he goes
She should
off.
be in literally like a burlap sack.
Yeah.
Like,
And she should be in what the cartoons animated Snow White was wearing, like the rags with the Dutch shoes.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Clogs.
the clogs. Yeah,
The Peter Pan collar is optional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he is like, he finds her pretty easily. The other guards are dying, I think, and then she's like, please don't kill me, please. And he's like, I don't care what your whole deal is. And the guys, he's like, he's gonna bring back my wife. Liability, go tell your sister, bring back my wife, and then I'll give you this girl.
And then he's like, ha, you're a fucking idiot. You think she could do that?
Loser!
Yeah, he literally is like, loser.
And I'm like, You are so dumb. That's why he's liability. First, he lets Snow White go because he's busy sexually harassing her.
Mhm.
B, he doesn't wait till he has custody of Snow White to be like, you're a loser, you know?
Yeah.
So then the guy's like, well, okay, obviously, fuck you. And then he's like, also, I killed your wife. And it's like, you can't read the room
Yeah.
for shit.
Will!
It's
Uh,
this scene is psycho.
So he fights off the guards and the liability's hallucinating and she and him run off and he's like, I don't know what your deal is. And she's like, you have to help me. I don't know how to get out. I'm a woman. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna rip your skirt and then say, don't flatter yourself. And it's like,
Who asked for this?
yeah, truly. And because especially because she's not even that shocked. She's just kind of like,
Yeah.
what?
This is my life now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then he's like, okay, this is how you fight. You gotta pull them in and then stab them here. And it is fun advice for like he's like tailoring it to her build. I'm like, that's a good
Yes.
fighting teacher. He's like, okay, you're small, this is what you gotta do. I'm like,
Mhm.
if this went somewhere
But
cool, I would have liked it.
it
Yeah.
literally is just the setup for the end.
Which is
Instead, it should have been like throughout their adventure together, him
Yes.
getting her wherever she needs to go, he should be consistently training her
yeah.
and like
Yes.
helping her. But no.
Yeah. And this is setting up allegedly two different kind of worldviews, two different characters, and one is supposed to kind of triumph over the other, but they're both a little too nebulous. And they're I get the whole kind of like learning from each other thing, but we'll get to the climax of this movie when we get there. But
When we get there.
when we get there, they escape the forest and they're like, something's here. It's a bridge troll. Uh, they're fighting. It's cool again, cool design, beautiful gowns.
Yeah. So yeah, the troll thing happens and he's like, "Oh, we gotta kill it." And then she's like, "No, we just hang out with it."
Yeah.
I have crossed the horizon to find you.
Moana.
Yes,
I know
Tafiti.
your name.
And the troll is like, yeah, you're cool. You're pure.
It's like I don't know, like she doesn't ever find out what her thing is that makes her special, like why the troll doesn't
Yeah.
kill her. It's just like
Is it
maybe it's like I don't fight girls.
Is
Like,
it because
I don't
she's
know.
the heir? And this is I think what's frustrating is because I feel like it's all building towards something, and or it's just lazily pulling from the animated Snow White because we know, okay, she's pure of heart, but the animated Snow White shows her being pure of heart. Like they do the save the cat moment where she's like helping a baby bird, and the huntsman's like, well, I'm not gonna kill this girl who just helped a baby bird,
Yeah.
And so then the animals are all like, oh, she's our friend because she
But she
showed
hasn't
kindness.
done anything.
Yeah. Well,
She
she
hasn't
saved the
saved
bird as a kid.
Right, but as an adult who
Yeah.
has been locked in a tower for 15 years or whatever, like what makes her special?
So
Like
yeah, it's like I bought the white horse and the birds, but then the troll, I was expecting her to do a little more, to be like to stand up for the troll a little more instead of
or just
Please,
like
he has a wife and children.
yeah.
and you used to have a wife, remember? She's dead now. Yeah, I think it's
Too
just
soon.
relying on the fact that like okay, she is our title character. That's what it's relying on. That's
Yeah.
the troll's like, "Oh shit, you're Snow White. You're the name of the movie I'm in."
Yeah.
You know?
You're the fairy tale character Snow White who's good and
Yeah.
pure. It's just building on
And she's like, "What?
What?
I am?" Like she doesn't even know what's interesting or special about her.
Yeah.
Similar to Bella.
So about
Bella
Oh my God.
Swan.
And again,
Oh my
if it's-
God.
if
You
the-
don't know you're beautiful.
if the huntsman is all like, I'm gritty and I fight, and like she's like, hey, if I had ran away, like you would have been dead. But I wish it focused more on like she's like, I think that if we're good and loving and kind to the animals, we'll build a better future. Like I need her to say that and perform it with her
But
actions.
also, a troll is not necessarily an animal because it has some sort of sentience,
Yeah.
right? Well, at least I'm assuming.
Well,
Maybe this troll actually doesn't.
yeah, I think she's
But
just like, hey, we don't need to kill everything.
yeah,
Ella Enchanted, trolls
she
have
needs to
rights.
express whatever the fuck her worldview is that makes her special and keeps the troll from killing her.
Yeah.
She needs a line.
She needs, that's the thing is like, I'm
Let
not.
her speak. Let her speak. Let women speak.
Hashtag let women speak.
2012. Let women speak.
Hashtag let women speak. Well, it's like
This is why Hillary lost.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because it's not that I do hate when movies get like, we've talked about this a lot with the live action remakes where they get a little too like, let me spell out my whole deal for you. But
Yeah.
there is a version where they could maybe spell out their whole deal once and then follow up that with their actions.
Yeah.
Or use their actions more clearly to demonstrate
Yes.
their worldview.
And to contrast,
Yeah.
you know, with the other worldviews of our kind of two, it's kind of a,
Because otherwise we're just guessing. And if we're guessing, you have not effectively
Yeah.
told us who your character is.
because the
So.
evil queen, we know her whole deal. And the Huntsman, unfortunately, I kind of know his deal. And I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
Wait, so we're saying that the person playing Snow White in this campaign is a new player who has not
Yes.
had much experience in tabletop role playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one playing the queen is the veteran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
I just thought of our friend Alyssa. I'm like, Alyssa's playing the evil queen.
Oh, yeah.
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 Oh no, Victorian novel disease.
Consumption!
I'm gonna have a child with 3 blood drops.
I dreamed a dream of time gone by.
Okay, but
Fantine.
now I'm thinking about it. I should just have like a tissue that has like red food dye in it. And if I have to blow my nose, I go,
Oh!
I'm dying of the
consumption.
wasting disease.
Bring me to the window. William finds out
he's grown up.
He's grown up.
And he's
William
really cute.
now.
And he's Finnick
He is
O'Dare
cute. Yeah, he is.
from Hunger Games.
And he finds out the Snow White's alive, and he's like, "Well, I gotta go find her."
Yes, you do.
And so he's gonna go off. He's a rebel. He's a bad boy. He fights the bad guys even without his daddy's permission. So he's gonna go get Snow White. So he's gonna join.
And very clearly, we understand his worldview is like, I am going to get my friend back no matter what it costs.
Because I left her behind as a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, yep, exactly.
And so he shoots one of Liability's men, is like, I heard you needed an archer. And so they take him on, and I'm like, Liability is so fucking dumb.
Yeah. Literally the dumbest.
Yeah.
Well, because his eyes are too far apart.
Yeah. So also
bangs are too high.
The bangs are yeah, bang voyage. So they go to this little town, which is, Hannah's gonna hate me. It's a very Gakoro from Bionicle Coded. It's like a water village.
Wish I knew what you were saying.
I wish, yeah.
I don't remember.
It's all female village on the water. Yes, I remember. They've all scarred themselves. This is where it's diverting from Bionicle lore, but they all scarred themselves so they're not useful to the evil queen. But they're in these very like tasteful like cheek scars. They're like, yeah, we're hideous, and you're like,
actually, that's kind of a serve.
Yeah, but I get the idea, and I also get that it'd be hard. Like it'd be without like, what prosthetics are we gonna put on all these actresses? Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
but I mean, if they look like the one dude from Beastly.
Oh no, Beastly. We just did that movie a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, That would also be interesting. It's
If they had
little more
embraced the suck on all of that.
Oh.
Charlize embraced the sucking the life out
So
of
I
people.
thought this whole village was going to be important. But what was I thinking? It's a village full of women.
It's not going to be
Oh
important.
my god!
It gives very much
Women's
D&D
History
stop. Yeah, Happy Women's History Month. But they're just like, you don't know who she is, dumbass. She's the princess. Look at her play dolls with this kid.
Look at that innocent blood.
I thought there was an SNL skit with Kristen Stewart that was like Duolingo for talking to children. And it was like she was really funny in it, like trying to talk to like kids. And that's what this reminded me of. Because it's like, it was good. It was like, she's giving a very endearing, like awkwardly, let's play with this child that I don't know thing. I was like, all right, like I did appreciate a lot of choices Kristen made. Not all of them, but eventually he's like, I can't deal with that. I have a dead wife. And he like leaves, and then the women...
I'm sorry, was that Jersey? I can't deal with this broad.
Literally. Yeah.
And he leaves, and then the village gets attacked by Liability and his men. They're burning shit down. They're tagging the women. And Snow White is very actively helping everyone escape. She is boots on the ground. Let's go. Like, let's get everyone in the boats. And then William is like stopping the bad guys from killing people specifically and trying to save Snow White. And then Chris Hemsworth shows up and is like, oh, sorry, I left you. Time to go. And she's like, well, these people need help. And she's like, we'll be fine.
We don't matter.
We don't matter.
That's literally what she says. She's like, it's okay. We don't even have names.
Like, she literally got shoved to the ground by a guard, and she picks herself back up, and she's like, we're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah.
So she runs off. They run off. They're captured by dwarves. One of them knows him. We don't get more on that relationship. These dwarves are so indistinguishable.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real problem in the fantasy genre with large groups of dwarves that I can't tell apart.
It would be helpful if they had names that match their personalities.
Yeah.
But then that would require a different personality.
I think that might have happened like 85 years ago.
I think so. I mean, maybe.
Just it might have been a big selling point of that movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or stupid.
So stupid.
Weird. Yeah. I wish that some of these movies even just color coded.
Mm-hmm.
I think
but there's no color in this movie.
It's medieval grunge. It is peak medieval grunge.
Well, they did do that in the Kristen Crook version. They were all colors of the rainbow, remember?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
It's fine if you don't.
It's okay.
Like, okay.
Yeah. We'll save that I'm sure we'll come back to Snow White someday.
After Emily Blunt History Month.
Blunt History Month, yeah. And so they're captured by dwarves. The queen, meanwhile, is mad. The tree of Gondor, in the castle is blooming again.
Yeah.
Aslan is on the move. And
how many more references can you make?
And Snow White and the dwarves and the Huntsman, the 8 dwarves. I did not realize this till there were 7 at the end. I was like, wait, didn't one die? I was like, oh, there were 8.
Oh, I thought there were 7 became 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then they're in the tunnels later and they're like, you think 6 dwarves can do this? And I'm like, well, if the blind one stayed behind and 1 died, wouldn't you be 5 dwarves? But I just...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But there are 7 after 1 dies. So they're in the sanctuary, the fairy zone. They're having a campfire times, singing their version of the silly song.
By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny bays, where the sunshine.
This
is our musical episode.
Yeah.
And
I can yodel if you need me to.
Yeah, this is equivalent of that scene. And one of them is like, okay, will you dance? And she's like, sure. And they just like do a little dance. And he's basically like, I'm a stan. I'm with you. Because the other dwarves are like, yeah, we should have killed her. And she's like, that makes me uncomfortable.
Except she doesn't say that. She
She
just
just-
makes a face.
She just makes
Well,
a
no,
face.
what
doesn't say
happens?
anything.
No, what happens is one dwarf comes in for an embrace, and she just dances.
So she's like,
Yeah.
let's dance.
Yeah.
And there are fairies around, these like butterfly type things.
Yo, the fairies popping out of the toadstools.
Scary. Freaky.
Jesus
Didn't like
Christ.
it.
I you know what? I was down. I was down with the weird little turtle. I was down with all these little
Okay, the turtle was
creatures,
cute. The turtle was cute.
all the little animals hanging out. What I wasn't down with is when it reveals that her bird friends were possessed by two little
Yes.
white naked fairies.
Didn't like that.
I just thought she was cool with birds. Yeah, is she only cool with fairy birds?
So does that mean that horse that she inevitably killed
Was a
was
fairy?
just like a horse sack full of fairies? It's 4 fairies in a horse skin.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
It's a fairy's horse sewn.
Now I don't feel so bad
That
because
it
I was like,
drowned.
oh, it was just like it wasn't a being. The fairy spy got out and it was just like the horse skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened to that horse previously? Don't know.
So it's
Yeah.
just like Collodi's Pinocchio when he was a donkey and he got thrown into the ocean and the fish came and ate up his donkey skin.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Totally.
100%.
I'll never forget retelling Pinocchio and our guests being like, just stop. I don't want to hear any more of this.
Yeah.
So then the next morning there's fairy music. This is definitely like a fairy ambiance ASMR video you pull up on YouTube to put in the background of your D&D campaign.
Yeah.
Welcome
And-
to the magical forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
The crackling
The
fire.
crackling. And they see the white hart, this big white deer. He's right here with me. And it's like, wow, we never see him. He's giving his blessing. All the animals are here vibing. You know, she's touching him.
They're singing Kumbaya.
They're
yeah.
singing Kumbaya. They're singing With a Smile on a Song remix.
Featuring Flo Rida.
Featuring Flo Rida.
No,
Yeah. A different whistle while you work. And
With Dan Schneider on the remix. Oh my god.
She's like touching his muzzle, and it's all like, wow, she's a blessing. She's the rightful queen. She's being anointed. And then, oh no, he's been shot by the baddies, and the sanctuary is tainted, and the animals are scared. I was actually pretty upset in this scene. I was like, oh no. And it eventually, the stag dissolves into like other fairies. But at first, I'm like, they fucking killed Stag Jesus.
Well, here's the thing.
Stag Aslan.
Stag
Oh
Aslan,
my god.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The first thing I ever knew about this movie, back when it came out, was a friend in high school. They told me about this majestic stag without any context. They were like, "There's just this beautiful stag, and it's just a beautiful moment." And now I've seen it, and I'm like, "Okay, God, it is really fucking beautiful."
It
Sweet
is.
Jesus.
Now you get to understand.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very important.
I was
Okay,
telling
carry
a-
on.
I was telling a friend, oh, we're watching Story in the Huntsman, and he was like, yeah, I think I've seen it. I think I remember a beautiful deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He moves us all.
he moves us all. It is a cool scene, and it is upsetting when he's hurt. And then we get another fight sequence. Gus the dwarf dies. The huntsman kills Liability finally by
Yes!
stabbing him to a tree. And it hurts Queen Charlize.
Wait, didn't the longest spear of that trunk go right through his dick? It really looked like it did.
Oh my God. I don't know.
That's fitting for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's how they suck the life force out from Charlize.
Yeah. She's
Makes
like,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Goddamn.
Squilliam shows up again. He saves them, and he's like, "I'm on your side," and she's like, "William," but then Gus is dying, and she's like, "Oh no," and he's like, "I would have followed you to the ends of the earth." And this is a piece of this is some sibling lore I'm about to drop.
Oh boy. Here we
about
go.
my story, like when we would play with like toys, Legos, anything, there was like a storyline. right?
Mhm.
And it was like a cohesive, allegedly storyline. And I wanted the bad guys to kill a character to make everyone sad. But I didn't want to lose any one of my minifigures. So I didn't even take a minifigure. I took like this H-shaped piece of plastic. And it was like, this is H-E. Everyone loves him. Oh my
We
God,
love
H-E.
H-E.
H-E's been shot.
I'm holding space for HE.
We're all holding space
space for H-E.
and then H-E is dead, and it's so sad. And so I introduced him to immediately kill him off. And I was like 6, maybe. And I just love when real movies written by adults also do that.
Also do that. You knew the trope.
I knew the
We're
trope.
raised in the trope.
And it's like, you maybe, if you're making a movie, you shouldn't just have a 6-year-old instinct of, I want to kill somebody, but not somebody I care about.
Yeah.
And so we have this long song and funeral sequence for Gus. And I'm like, what does this mean to Snow White?
Bang the drum.
And I'm like, what does this mean to Snow White? What does this mean to Eric, the huntsman's name?
Yeah.
And William's like, I'm not leaving you again. And she's like, dude, you were a kid. Like, I don't blame you.
And this isn't the right time.
Yeah.
But they're going to the Duke's castle, and they get so straight directly from the Duke's castle to the Queen's castle at the end. And I'm like, but this is a whole ass journey.
Yeah.
Is it just because they went the forest route? Maybe
They had a map. The Duke provided them with a map, I'm sure.
Yeah, a printed out map quest. They had a printer at the castle.
Quest.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
the printer is a person who
yeah,
draws the whole
like a
thing.
monk. Yeah,
Yes.
inscribing.
God, they were using that quill for so long.
Yeah.
And so Ravenna is like, I gotta take matters into my own hands. Snow White wakes up in the snow forest and sees William wearing an obviously very different outfit than what he was wearing.
Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Like,
And also,
palace
can't she
clothes.
not see him sleeping next to Eric?
Right?
I really like this idea in theory, but not execution of how they do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cool thing of, oh, she's tricked because the queen is pretending to be someone she knows. And she's like, yeah, we were kids. I used to follow you around everywhere. And she's like, oh, we used to fight all the time. And he's like, yeah,
but that means I liked you.
I liked you.
Now eat this apple.
He's also like, oh, you must hate the queen and you could get an army to destroy her. And she's like, actually, I just kind of feel bad for her. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna elaborate. Nope, we're moving on. Okay. I was like, I thought we almost got to, because knowing that it's the queen and Snow, I'm like, that's an interesting.
Yeah, wouldn't the queen be like, why do you feel bad for her? What makes you sad for her?
Well, you see,
because the
I feel
queen's
bad.
like, I'm living my best life, bitch.
I feel bad because I feel like she hasn't been allowed to speak.
Yeah. Everyone just sees her for her beauty.
Yeah.
You know, and not for the murderous girl boss she is. Yeah,
yeah, true.
Yeah,
or
she killed my dad, by the way.
Yeah. or just like, maybe it's kind of like a Fauna situation in Sleeping Beauty, like a kind of like, I just feel bad she doesn't seem to have a lot of joy in her life. She has all this power and she's so miserable.
You know, sometimes I feel she isn't really very happy.
Yeah, and then we get, okay, Snow White is good and compassionate.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're so close to getting to like, why does Snow White
We're so close to getting
a character
Snow White. Yeah.
Because
I can taste it.
We don't really get Snow White's opinion on the evil queen in the animated movie, other than it's just like, kind of, I don't fuck with her. She's like, she's trying to kill me and I don't want to be around her. And other than that, I'm protecting my peace. She's not in my thoughts.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's just like, I'm interested. Yeah. So we don't even, so, but then he's like, they kiss. And I'm like, wow, gay.
Yeah, it becomes gay. I was like, oh, gay moment. But she kisses him, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Isn't it that she initiates more?
He gets close.
Oh, okay. And then
yeah.
okay.
And then he gives her the apple, and she's like, "I remember this game."
So wait, so Charlize Theron, gay. Got it.
Yeah.
Atomic
No.
Blonde. Got it.
Yeah, but also in this case, well, I was
Kristen Stewart also, yes.
yeah, but
Gay.
I remember the fucking Totino's SNL skit.
Totino's. I'll always remember. I love that skit.
Happy 50th anniversary SNL.
Yeah.
On this Snow White episode.
So she kisses him, them,
this entity.
Her stepmother.
Yeah.
Of a day. She gets the apple, and then she bites it because of the game they played as kids, where he'd be like, "Here's an apple, ha ha ha, no." And then the apple, she's instantly like, "Oh, this apple sucks," and then it molds and gets furry in her hand.
Gross.
Cool effects. And then she's dying, and like on the ground, and let's see, yeah. Kristen's here, and the queen is like, "See, I'm the evil queen, and love is always your undoing because these hoes ain't loyal, these men ain't shit.
And you're not a great kisser anyway.
Snaps her finger.
And I'm gonna cut out your heart because only by fairest blood can I be defeated." She starts monologuing.
Yeah.
You sly dog.
And it's just like.
Meanwhile, Eric the Huntsman wakes up William, is like, "She's gone."
Yeah, no one was keeping watch. What kind of situation is this?
Bad Huntsman.
Bad Huntsman. Sure. So they're finding her, and she's like, "It's a mercy because you'll never have to know what it's like to grow old." And I'm like,
since when does Snow White care about that?
Yeah.
That wasn't set up as like an insecurity for her or anything.
No, but it is for Charlize. She doesn't want to grow old. It's giving
she's like, "I'm doing you a mercy." That's what Charlize is like. I'm mercy killing you so that you don't
uggos, no pores.
Truly. I was like, it's giving both Gen Z and millennial on TikTok. Like both the millennials who are like, "I haven't aged," they're like delusional about aging, and then the Gen Z people that are like, "I'd rather die than age," like that whole kind of discourse. 12-year-olds getting makeup. 12-year-olds would be younger than Gen Z, but or like skincare routines. Anti-aging
12-year-olds
routines.
doing
anti-aging.
What's it called? Whatever, like
I'm
collagen and shit. I'm like, you're made of collagen.
You're
made,
when I say 12-year-olds with makeup, I don't mean like your fun flavored lip gloss.
We're talking expensive skincare products they're stealing from their mother.
Neutrogena.
That it's like my anti-aging. It's like, then you'd still be a child. You haven't ripened.
Bitch, please.
But
also, I have a question about Ravenna, whatever.
I think it's Ravenna because I was like, "Oh, that's a
Ravenna,
a town
in Italy."
Well, right? Yes, but also a town in Ohio where I grew up.
Oh wow. But the question I had was, she transforms into this flock of birds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Good question.
Why did she not use those to first scout out where Snow was hiding?
Great question.
Because she doesn't have powers in the dark forest.
I guess, but like, they're out of the dark forest.
Yeah, but how long were they even in the what is the dark forest and where are they now? Like, what kind of forest is this?
Is this Pandora?
They're in snow forest. There are 3 forest levels. There's dark forest, there's sanctuary, there's snow forest. And in between there's like a mid-level with the troll. And that's how you get to Lady Lake.
What the fuck? I don't get it. So yeah,
but also
question.
Snow forest, gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful gowns. This, I think this did get a costume nomination at the Oscars. Probably for Charlize Theron's outfits alone, because no one else wore anything good.
This movie was nominated for an Oscar?
It doesn't say on their Wikipedia page, it doesn't say, but if you go, because Mirror was also nominated for Best Costume. And if you go to that page of that Oscars, this is one of the costume nominees, along with Les Miserables, but losing to Anna Karenina.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
that movie, stunning costuming.
Yeah.
You know what? You guys just continue. I'm going to do a little bit of research because I cannot believe that.
Story in the Huntsman. All right, I gotta close. Someone started vacuuming shit next to me or leaf blowing.
Oh, I love when they do that.
I guess I'll just sing while we wait.
Yeah,
Just
sing while we
whistle
wait.
while you work. I can't whistle for shit. And cheerfully together we can tidy up the place.
I also can't really whistle.
Yeah. It's a curse.
Sorry to Flo
It
Rida.
is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Flo Rida.
Oh my God.
So she learns about the Snow White dies. They fight the queen, who turns into a flock of ravens, which is a cool effect. And shout out to the goddess the Morrigan, who's associated with ravens, the Irish goddess of like war and fate and stuff. Ladies of Lore has a great episode on the Morrigan if you want to learn more about her. But she turns into this flock of ravens and they're fighting them. And then she gets back to the castle and some of the ravens are like dying, and she like goes into her ooze pool and comes out like injured because some of the ravens are injured. And I'm like, this is all cool. William tries to kiss her because
let me share something I found on the IMDb page while I was searching for this supposed Oscar nom. Featured review says, wow, it's really bad. Kristen Stewart's, not Stewart. Kristen Stewart's deserves an anti-Oscar award. The birds in the movie had better emotions than her.
Oh.
the birds were putting in the work.
They were, but like she's in with the tone.
Listen, she's giving what they gave her.
Yes.
I honestly can't.
I don't blame her for anything.
They didn't give her lines. So like, what is she supposed to do? Like,
everyone just really liked hating on her because this was the Twilight era.
Exactly.
Because I read a review that was like, she seems more concerned about who's gonna ask her to prom, and I'm like, does she? I think she's more concerned about birds, to be honest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the Duke's son, William, kisses her and she's still dead. So they're like, ooh. So they take her back to the Duke. Everyone's sad. No glass coffin. She's in fur. And the drunk huntsman is boozing around the church. I'm like, this is the house of the Lord, my dude.
Take me to church. I worship like a dog.
It was nominated for 2 Oscars. Costume design and visual effects. But you know what? I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah.
I think they're both great.
Yeah. Solid.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Is that Edgar?
Like, look at my new bow tie.
Oh, he's so dapper.
I love it.
So he's drunk around the church. I'm like, excuse me, this is the house of the Lord. And he's like, my wife was dead and I failed her just like I failed you.
He's monologuing.
Yeah, he's also monologuing. He's like, this is my character arc. You remind me of my dead wife and you inspire me.
Monologuing to potentially a dead body, and it's just like cringe.
Yeah, it's like, you inspire me because you remind me of my dead wife and I want to do better, and sorry I couldn't have done better by you. You're going to be a queen in heaven now.
That's assuming that she goes to heaven, you know.
I mean, she seems pretty nice.
I mean, she has no personality, so
Catholic.
She could be in purgatory.
Yeah, she could be in purgatory. Well, she was saying all those Our Fathers and burning those dolls. I don't know if that's a penance.
Yeah, so why did she feel like she needed to do that?
Yeah, who
What
knows?
was she doing in that cell? Too
Oh,
much time
Lord.
alone?
I see Snow White.
You know what? You do you, girl. And you're
Okay.
yeah. So she's gonna be queen in heaven, but then he kisses her, and I'm like, with his musty, drunk ass lips.
Yeah,
And
dude.
William kissed her in the woods, right? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
So it's like very obviously like, okay, well, he's not the one.
And
Now we have to bring it up to Angelina Jolie and Elle Fanning.
Elle Fanning. I really, when it comes to, I watch so many movies where they're like, that's true love, and I'm like, sure, whatever, you know. But something about these
There's nothing
two,
true love about, there's nothing love about this. I wouldn't even say there's anything like about this.
nothing like you got that he was starting to respect her, but like,
You never
But-
got the sense that she was into him.
Yeah. You never get the sense that she was anything, but yeah.
yeah,
Who are you?
That's absolutely correct. Like,
because we don't
potentially
know.
you could read that from him, but I don't think so. I don't
Not
think
really. He was
there's
kind of like,
nothing from
Because
either of them.
everyone was telling him, "Oh, she's perfect. She is the one," and then he has to project and be like, "Oh, I guess she is the one for me." And it's like,
That's
No!
not what we're all saying, but
No!
sure.
or maybe he's saying it was the love for his dead wife projected onto
Okay,
this
so then
girl.
how come that worked to break the spell? Because that's like weird.
Again,
but also the necromancy.
Oh.
the Snow White animated movie, 1937, says love's first kiss, right? It's like explicit.
Yeah.
And like this is broken. And you could argue stuff about the prince because they couldn't animate men, so he's not in it that much. But it's like, do we know how Snow White felt about him?
No, but also that kiss was really chaste.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, because it's like he's obviously being like, oh, I'm really sad. Here's a goodbye kiss. I'm really sad that
Again,
you're dead.
I think we said the same thing about the animated movie. Right? Is that what
Yeah.
we're talking about? The animated
Yeah.
movie Chase?
Please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's
Like,
like
so Chase, it's very much like
a
this is
peck.
goodbye.
Like goodbye.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we know, and we believe it's true love because we know that she really loves him. And so it's like,
Someday my prince will come.
welcome back, Snow White.
I'm back, bitch!
And that's basically what she does in this movie. She
Yeah.
jolts up when he leaves, and she's like, and then she like, the Duke is like, we gotta fight, or the Duke's son, and the Duke's like, I don't know, I have to protect these people, and she's like, I'm here in my white dress, and
We're gonna raise an army.
an
Yeah.
army. I'm Batman. She's like,
Oh my god.
she's like, from frost to fire, fire to frost. Like, I have never seen a light like when my eyes opened. And it's like,
This is the second coming.
like,
Yeah.
the speech isn't necessary. I think it could work. I don't know. Hannah's like, no. I think there's
No.
a world where this speech
Not
works.
giving anything.
But Snow White she hasn't spoken, let alone been eloquent. So
Yeah.
that's where it's like, was dying and coming back to life what gave you
I have
your
no
leadership
confidence
abilities?
in her on any abilities.
Yeah.
Not even really leadership abilities. Like, I'm like, you are nothing to me because you have not been given anything in this movie. So I'm like, what do you think you're gonna raise an army? Someone would be like, shut this girl up. But no.
But also,
She was already
Because-
shut up.
let women speak.
Yeah.
But also, the fact that, we have Charlize, she's sucking the life out of everything, including dicks.
Yeah.
So maybe the kiss that Eric gave her provided some testosterone.
Oh, give her some life force. I don't know. It's
I'm just
Weird.
pulling this out
we're
of
just
my
pulling.
ass.
Yeah. No, I'm like,
That's what they did with this entire movie.
yeah, like
Yes!
we're workshopping. We're doing the workshop. We're trying to figure out what happened in these
Yeah.
pages that we were given to read before class.
Joining us now, the screenwriter of the film.
Hey, Evan.
Hey, girl, hey.
We're here to workshop your script that was already made into a film.
So
Him doing the kiss also, that's the third thing they've pulled from the 37 movie, actually.
Yes.
Because, yeah, it was never in any prior adaptations.
Yes. It is Walt was like, let's give it a Sleeping Beauty twist.
Yeah.
So she's not throwing up an apple. And as I said in our Snow White episode, most iconic resurrection in cinema. And she like is so it is such a sweeping moment. So you get why it's every other version since has taken that and
Yeah.
put it into the story. But yes, it is from the Disney version. And I also would trust, not necessarily with military abilities, but the animated Snow White did show more leadership qualities.
Yeah.
She led animals and dwarves in various tasks.
You better take a fucking bath, Grumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was delegating. She was like, sorry,
She
that's not how you
delegated
do-"
those tasks
Yeah.
to the animals when she was cleaning the house.
Yeah.
This woman to my, what is this? My left, but technically I guess would be my right. It'll be some direction when I go to edit this. But behind Cullen, that woman, no, she don't do
No.
anything.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault.
It's not her fault. And yeah, because I mean, I believe, as I've said on this podcast many times before, animated Snow White could do what Frodo did. I think that's true, but I don't know about this girl. But she's like, we're gonna be the bigger bugs we want to see in the world. We're gonna be the bigger bugs to come here and fight. And they are like, we're fighting the Queen. We got this big battle sequence on this Mont Saint Michel
And they send the
castle.
dwarves through the sewers.
Yeah. But it was smart because that's how she got out. So she's like, I know this other way.
But did it have to be the dwarves? Why
Did
couldn't
they
it
I
have
guess because they're
been-
small.
Well, because
What?
they also make the hi-ho bit
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. They do that.
in the
They did
caves.
that. They did the thing.
They did the thing.
Yep.
And they have to open the portcullis. The soldiers or the knights charge. They're being shot at by archers. This is how the French lost the 100 Years' War initially until Joan of Arc came in. But because
Another Joan of Arc reference. 2 weeks in a row.
That's our girl. And she is like, no, this is gonna work because they only have so much time till the tide rises. But then they're sitting ducks. The battle sequence is very smartly choreographed. But this
Yeah.
is where I'm like, this movie is so obviously written by a dude who was like, this is gonna be such a cool battle.
But their success hinges on the dwarves succeeding.
Yes.
Snow White's not even there. That's why I'm like, why didn't she do it? She's been through the sewer before.
She could have
Send
led
her
the
with the
dwarves.
dwarves to go do the thing. Because
Yeah.
because otherwise she doesn't do anything. She just like runs around and she does get in a couple like fights and I'm like, where did these things come from? She should be doing the thing that
She
the
did.
success hinges on.
And they eventually break in and they're fighting, but then suddenly some of them are no longer on horses and they're on their feet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did this? They're doing like a real formation or whatever, get in formation. And then
Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation.
And eventually she's like, Evil Queen's up in the tower. I'm gonna go kill her. Boss fight. And then Eric and William are like, oh, we should go follow her. She goes up these big stairs. I'm like, you're gonna need to take a break after that cardio.
Girl, your girl needs a break.
In chainmail.
Yeah.
She gets up there and the queen is like, I don't know. She's like, you thought you could kill me. You thought you'd come to kill me.
Let's watch them die together.
Yeah. She sends
Yeah.
her mirror like glass minions to fight William and Eric and the guys. Cool. They're fighting, and I was so disappointed in this fight sequence. Like the queen throws her around a bit,
Yeah.
and is like, "You thought you could defeat me, mistress of all evil? I don't like. I've lived 28 lives. I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I
Monologuing.
let this company die. Yeah,
Yes.
like I've lived 28 lives. Like I destroyed kingdoms.
I got
And-
99 problems, but this bitch ain't one.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna eat you.
And then she's like, stab.
she pulls
I
her
did the
in.
thing I was told to do.
But didn't we establish earlier that she couldn't be stabbed? When the
I think
hottie
it-
that dies, but it
I-
says she's the fairest blood.
I think yes, I think it's that. But I also thought that maybe it was that like she didn't see it coming. She
Mm,
was on guard when
yeah.
those two guys were there, like the hottie was there.
Mhm.
Um, but this like she couldn't have expected Snow White to do this because she thinks so low of Snow White. But
You would
I
never
think,
I
kill me.
but I do I think I like your idea better that like it was because of the fairest blood.
yeah,
Um,
she was prophesied.
yeah, the prophecy.
The prophecy.
No other basic woman could do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Um,
Only that basic woman.
only
Yeah.
that basic woman. And then she starts rapidly aging and like crawling towards to her mirror and like and so I'm sitting there and I'm like expecting a moment. I'm expecting some show of compassion, understand, not even necessarily like just something. It's like they're building to something. And she just says, "You can't have my heart." And I'm like, that's
Yeah, because she
all.
was gonna cut out, she was literally in
Yeah.
the about to cut out the heart, and then she's
Yeah.
like, "This is my clapback. You can't
Yeah.
have it.
You
It's
can
mine."
it's
If
like,
that were me, I literally would have handed her the furry apple.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like what because I was like, this final fight is our last chance to be like, what did Snow White learn? What is it about her that makes, other than being born into it, that makes
Yeah.
her the rightful queen? Um,
Yep.
something. And I was like,
Anything.
I thought it was going to be something with her nature powers. Like she's had all these nature things, but then it was like, oh, this thing she learned from the Huntsman one time. And I'm just like, that's it. Because the queen is
That's
like,
it.
we're alike. And Snow White's like, I'm not like you. And I'm like, well, how are you not alike? Because yeah, I see that you're not alike. You're
Behind
actually not
every
alike at
heroic
all.
woman is
A
a
man
man
that
with a
taught her.
bad Scottish accent who taught her how to do the thing.
I was just so
Every woman.
every
Mine's
woman.
right behind me
Everyone.
here.
I was so disappointed. I just thought like there was something.
Yeah.
I think that's when I was like, wait, this movie wasn't good. Like, because I was expecting they were breadcrumbing me like Hansel and Gretel. I was expecting there to be like, okay, at least there's the thing that she's been learning and processing.
Speaking of Gretel, Greta, I
Yeah.
thought that's what it was a reference to, even though it's like
Uh,
Greta's like a Germanish name. But I was
yeah.
like, oh my God, is she supposed to be Gretel? But no.
Um,
Anyway.
yeah, so she just dies and then Snow White's queen, and I'm like disappointed about that. Snow White's she's coronated, everyone's bowing, dwarves, William, Huntsman smirks at her across the hall. She's got her bird buddies with her.
And I
And
gotta say, the only thing wrong with that scene is that she didn't put her hair up.
Mm,
I did not like it down over the
yeah,
shoulders and the sleeves. Like it just didn't fit the look very well.
yeah.
yeah.
I, the only thing I liked about this movie is that I don't think this ending scene sets it up as if there's going to be a sequel. I think it's very much like
This is done. This
this is
is
a pleasant nod from the guy who kissed you, who maybe is your love interest. We don't know. But we also don't care enough that we're like, I want another movie to see what happens between them, you know?
I want
yeah.
to
And
see
then
if she gets a
she,
personality.
yeah. And then, you know, she, becomes queen, but it's not, there's nothing else there. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, this feels like an ending. Now, I don't know if there was an after credits or mid credit scene. As soon as it went black, I was like, click. So,
I wonder, it is an interesting choice in the peak love triangle era for there to be a love triangle and for her not to pick either one.
was there a love triangle? There was a triangle that they were trying to force
Yeah,
into a love triangle.
I feel like the movie wasn't interested enough in Snow White's thoughts or feelings for her to have a
Yeah.
real love triangle.
Yeah.
And plus, they didn't reconcile her relationship to William.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're like, you killed me.
Well, it's like she doesn't we know that William likes her, and then eventually we
Yeah.
know that the huntsman likes her, but we don't, bless you, we don't know what Snow White wants. Like we don't know
No.
who she likes, what she wants, And so it's like, I guess because it's the Huntsman's movie, but like as a character, this plot revolves around Snow White. She is our natural protagonist
Yeah.
and she's doing cool things. I guess the Huntsman fights, but this is a fantasy movie. We've seen people fight before. She has cool animal
It's not
helpers and all
even
this.
that she wanted to defeat the evil queen this whole time. It's like that she wasn't like in the bars like, "Oh, I'm gonna get her one day." She
Yeah.
was just like,
I won't be silenced.
Yeah, because she was silent this whole movie, so that was not her.
yeah. So it's like it's not like the thing that she did at the end to succeed. She's not like, I want to be princess, I want to be queen again.
I want
She
to
didn't
save the kingdom.
the thing like save the kingdom, that wasn't even on her list either. So it's like the things that she accomplished at the end, I don't know if she actually wanted that or if she just like stumbled into it.
Well, we'll
Because
find out in the remake.
because her longest speeches are the "I'm back from the dead" speech and the "Our Father."
Yeah.
You know.
The literal like religious ritual.
So this is obviously we're talking about like do we root for our protagonist? And I think the movie wants us to think the Huntsman is, but he doesn't really learn. He just kind of is like,
No,
wow,
I think the movie wants us to think Snow White is the protagonist, but based on the rules of screenwriting, the protagonist is the person with the strongest desire. This woman has no desire, no clear
yeah,
desire. I understand what his desire is. He wanted to get his
back his
wife,
dead
and now
wife.
he's like, okay, well, I want to kill this queen because she fucked me over. I can see that.
And
Yeah,
still,
But
I still win with the necromancy.
I still went.
there
Yeah,
you go. I still kind of got to kiss my wife one more time.
and just the yeah. So it's like I don't really root for any of these characters because he's annoying to me. He's just kind of blah, 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 blah. I'm like, there's
Yeah,
better, bigger shit going on, guy. Get it together.
yeah.
And I
I
don't
think
really.
the only person I root for is William because I think
He has a
he's like,
clear desire.
I want to save her because I couldn't save her before. I think that's noble. And I think also like he cares about the kingdom because he's been in it. Like he's the Duke's son. So like he knows what's going on. So I guess he's the only one I root for, but he's in
H-
the movie for 10 minutes.
Hannah, this is the one Snow White adaptation where you're rooting for the prince.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
So wild.
I literally like otherwise I'm like I can't think of another character. I'm not even rooting for the queen in like a fun way. I'm just like, ah,
You're
I
blowing my mind
don't,
right now.
yeah. Who are you rooting for anyone?
I mean, I feel like I'm rooting for Snow White only because I don't want to root for the Huntsman.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's also a good point. It's like I'm rooting for her to get lines. I'm rooting for her
Yes,
to be able to express something, you know.
I'm waiting for her to do something with that innocent, pure heart, and that never happens.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I was rooting for her, and because the animals liked her, I was like, I trust their judgment.
You know, if the animals like her, I like her. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
Yeah,
go.
she ate.
she all right. But
She ate.
like, I just wish we got more from her. Even at the end, a little bit more would have done. If we then, oh, so this is what she was thinking the whole
She was
time.
so flat. And again,
Yeah,
it's not Kristen Stewart's fault.
No.
This was probably flat on the page as well.
yeah. There's no dialogue for her to ruin or do
She had
badly.
6 lines. Actually, I
Yeah,
would love to get a line count.
yeah,
I bet it's less than 50.
yeah.
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Evan. Great evil queen. I know her deal. I know like
Yeah.
her powers. Yeah, they could be a little nebulous, but for a fantasy movie, like defined enough, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh and but the theme, like our when we talk about themes, like to quote one of our professors, what's the story about? What is
Who
it?
cares?
Who cares? Who like he would say it all the time, who cares?
Yep.
And
Who
that's
cares?
like,
So what?
so what? And exactly, so what? What is this about? I truly is it that the queen is wrong and men don't use and throw away women?
Is she right and Snow White will be next in line to be taken advantage of?
It, is the theme? I don't know. I don't know. Like, what is this movie trying to tell us about the human experience? yeah, like this movie is saying nothing. And I think you're right to say that, Wyatt, that like there is no heart here.
No.
Yeah.
Then that's why there's like it's so hard to pin down a theme because like it's not even like any sort of thinly
And
veiled theme.
no. And I hate to say this, but in the Disney canon, that's how I feel about Sleeping Beauty. Not gonna lie. It was a very beautiful, visually stunning movie with the most gorgeous music and animation you've ever seen in your entire life. But there was no soul behind it.
Wow.
Well, yeah, Cullen,
I disagree, but
but I think
I
the theme was pretty vague. Like we're like
true
pretty
love
much throwing
conquers
every
all.
But
but
that's so basic!
Well, I don't need the theme to be complicated.
true.
I
But I
need it
also
to
think
exist.
The most interesting theme I guess I'd find in that movie is that Aurora could already be seen as living unconsciously before she pricks her finger on the spindle.
Yeah,
And then by the time she wakes up, she becomes this fully fleshed character that we don't get to see.
we don't get to see.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do
But
have a thing how it's like, does she know anything that happened at by the end of this
Yeah.
movie?
but
I
but
yeah,
but my thing with the comparing this to the Disney Snow White, it's that whether you like it or not, I take little bits and pieces, but and honestly, my favorite part of the Snow White story was not emphasized in this film at all, which is that, and going back to this 1912 children's stage adaptation done by Winthrop Ames, which was
yeah,
filmed in 1916, and then Walt saw it as a newsboy in Kansas City. That introduces the notion of Snow White sort of forging this found family with the dwarfs.
yeah,
And that's, I think that's honestly what made it stick with me from childhood and honestly into adulthood, because it's like, I feel like she finds this community of people who appreciate her and care for her
yeah,
that aren't part of her biological family because, they're all dead. But she, it just hit being this, gay kid who was like, I was able to have that safety net with my friends and less so with my family because, they're still not cool with that. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah,
That
I
is
think
powerful.
it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think, but that was not anywhere in this movie.
And you know
Yeah,
what? I think that the adaptational choice to basically make the dwarves kind of just like they're not even so bumbling characters. They're just like I don't know.
they're
They're
nothing.
They're
they do,
inconsequential.
yeah, they're inconsequential and they're like they don't have personality. It's like this movie saw the dwarves in the Disney animated film as like, oh, they're just like tertiary characters when really like they are part of the heart and soul of the film.
Yeah,
Yes.
And so like yeah, so like they kind of they took everyone's heart and soul out of this
yeah.
movie.
They get the queen took all their hearts. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think that is what I would agree that like when I think of like what the theme or the message of Snow White is, it's like you can fill your world with sunshine, right? And like by choosing that like open-hearted approach to life, she is able to bond with the animals and with the dwarves and like create this community for herself. And the queen
Yeah.
spends all her time alone because she's like a selfish person and she doesn't have that. And so like it's a simple theme. That's what I mean. Like the theme can be true love conquers all for me, but it doesn't,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, it needs to be there. And I think this movie just has, I guess, good versus evil, but it is, as many movie is
But
scared to define good, is willing to define evil. So we get this kind of like,
but Ravenna's like backstory is so nebulous that I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I get why her worldview would be that vaguely, but I'm like, but what is the impetus that made her this way? Like,
And
why?
also, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't need to feel bad for her.
No.
I just
yeah,
wanted her to be a bloodthirsty sociopath.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, which gets into whenever we talk about Maleficent, my issues with with that movie.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I'm like, what this whole thing, I was like, oh, this is just the groundwork for
Yeah, if they're
Maleficent.
gonna
And
try, yeah, in this movie, if they're gonna try to make this evil queen be someone that like, okay, yeah, I can understand her worldview. It's like, No, I just want to understand why is she a baddie? All right. But it doesn't need to be something I can empathize with or
Yeah.
sympathize with. Like, I don't need that. I just need the reason as to like
Yes.
why, you know.
Yeah.
Like make it better than I want to kill this 7-year-old because I feel threatened by her, but also it doesn't need to be this tragic backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because all that is
'Cause
taking time. Like everyone has eaten time from Snow White and the Dwarves, which are the central figures of the story for most audiences.
yep.
Yeah. And there's a
Um,
reason for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads us to our big question. Was that your fantasy? Which is a two-pronged question. Did you like the movie and is it an adventure you'd like to live out? Hannah.
Oh boy. No and no. This movie sucks. For all the reasons we've already talked about, but also like if I was in this adventure, if I was Snow White, or even if I was just like, I don't know, the Huntsman, I was just a person who was on this adventure with her, helping her do I would be so confused. I would be like, guys, but let's remember why are we doing this? On three. 1, 2, 3, and then just silence.
So what's the plan again?
Yeah, exactly. I would be like desperately trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, but why are we doing this? Why can't I just go home?
Yeah.
So no.
Oh boy.
Wyatt.
And I could also picture trying to like talk to Snow White and her just kind of being like, I don't know, this script didn't give me anything. And so I'm just like, okay, great. I have no one to talk to because I don't want to talk to Eric.
He's drunk.
This guy sucks.
I'm just not like other girls.
I have Ferris blood.
Whatever that means.
Oh my god.
Wyatt, was this your fantasy?
I loved looking at it.
Beautiful
Yeah.
gowns.
Beautiful gowns. You know what? I will say I also loved listening to it. It had a
Okay.
really great sound design. Like I loved the ambiance of like the forest and
Yeah.
the throne, the castle and things like that. I love listening to it for some weird reason. That's the ASMR video we need to put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I were in this fantasy, oh my god, I would feel bad that I don't get to make a choice. I would just be thrust into this entire situation. Like say I wanted to take the NPC route and be one of the subjects in Ravenna's kingdom.
Ooh.
I'd be dead whether I roll an initiative to get out of the castle or not.
Yeah.
But if I were to be a major character, oh man, I don't know if I'd make it because I have too much common sense.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is not my fantasy because I wish I wanted something from the main character. I think that was like honestly, and the Huntsman was annoying, and he took away
Yeah.
from that. And I was like, if this was just dark, edgy Snow White, maybe we could have got there. But we had this man taking up space in Women's History Month. And whether I liked, but I did like as I was watching it, a lot of the action was really cool. For me, I'm gonna say yes. I do want to go on this journey. I want to meet that turtle. I want to meet the deer. I think I love the idea of dying and coming back and like overthrowing like Mitch McConnell with like I think that'd be cool. I think the hardest part would be then running a government. I'd want a really good counsel, but I think the adventure part I could handle. And if Chris Hemsworth wants to rip my clothes on the way, I guess it's happening.
I think for me, the most interesting thing about this film is that the studio thought there was enough substance here out of Eric to make a sequel because obviously they couldn't with K-Stu, whatever. They thought that there was something here to make another one.
Well, I think it's a sequel.
Which where?
Sequel/prequel.
Because she has a sister, you
Oh.
see.
You gotta.
No,
And
that's
her name
not
is
really
Elsa. No.
No.
No, Emily
No.
Blunt has ice powers and it's her sister.
Yes!
Shut up!
Yes!
No!
I'm pretty sure that's the plot. Yeah, I haven't seen
Yes.
it. But yeah.
Yeah, I showed him the edit I made of myself as Charlize there.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Edgar. I'm sorry. He's like looking at me like, what is wrong with you? That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
speaking of beautiful gowns, next week we're talking about
Emily in
Mirror.
Paris.
Emily in Paris. Talking about Emily in Paris and an actual cannibal.
It's giving France, is it not?
It is giving France. The costume design is giving France.
So
We're talking Mirror 2012. But first, Wyatt, thank you so much for coming on.
yeah.
Oh, my pleasure.
Can you do you want to share where people can find Disney Reel to Reel?
Sure. Disney Reel to Reel, it's available on all podcast platforms. You can also find me on Instagram at DisReelToReelPodcast. Any emails can be sent to DisneyReelToReel@gmail.com. And I'm very happy, and especially because you brought me on for this specific Snow White, because I'm kind of getting burnt out with the Walt Disney Company right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a lot. But again, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, I'm sure it's, as a Disney fan, I'm sure it can get like talking about Disney all the time can be a lot. But I do like how you have like such a historical angle. It's such a fun, like I'm always learning different things. Like I think on your podcast is where I learned that Adriana Castelletti was not invited to the premiere.
No, none of the voice actors were. No.
Yeah. So
That's wild.
so lots of just cool history and well sourced. So encourage our listeners to check it out. And then you can find us wherever you get podcasts.
Yeah. Well, you're listening to it,
Yeah.
but you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We are at Not My Fantasy Pod. Depending on where you're listening, you give us that 5-star review, and in your little comment, let people know what you love about the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi, hello, you can
Smash that like button.
smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and that notification bell so you get notified anytime we drop a new video episode.
And comment below. What do you think this movie means?
Yeah, what does this movie mean to you?
Yeah.
Which huntsman would you allow to cut your skirt in half?
Love that.
I would nominate either Chris Evans or Brendan Urie.
Oh, very nice. Great choices.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see
Anytime.
that.
Yeah, I second Chris Evans for sure.
Oh yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Cullen Ever After, and Blue Sky at Cullen C,
which stands for Cullen.
Cullen.
He married Emmett Cullen.
I was forcibly married into the Cullens.
But I did see your wedding photo posted on our Instagram, so I don't think you were really forced.
It was very white.
But you were forced to take his last name to become Cullen.
Cullen, yeah.
I did force that upon you.
Carlisle would not have allowed.
Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah, see us next time for Mirror Mirror with Of Slippers and Spindles podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah, as we dive deeper into Snow White month. Happy Women's Herstory Month, everybody. And see you next week.
All right, bye, listeners.
Bye.
Hashtag let women speak.
Yeah, hashtag let women speak. Just let a woman speak this week. That's your goal.
Yes.
This whole month.
This whole month.